Hey there, welcome to the Literary Escapes podcast. I'm Becky, and I'm glad you're here today. If you're a fan of books that give you an escape or let you explore other cultures, then you're definitely in the right place. So I'm glad you've joined us today. Stick around, we've got a great author interview for you, so let's jump right in. So welcome back to the Literary Escapes podcast. I have today a friend of mine. Her name is Kate Breitfeller, and she is an author of romantic suspense, which is without a doubt one of my favorite genres. So welcome, Kate. Glad you're here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, I started reading with people, and so I'm happy to talk about you and your book. So we've never really done that before, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Are you one of the ones who always wanted to be a writer when you were growing up?
Yes, absolutely. I was the caricature of, I think, most romance authors where there was never a time there wasn't a book in my hand. I was obsessed with Nancy Drew, Cherry Ames, The Babysitter's Club, Sweet Valley High. I was obsessed. The library, I'd come out with a giant stack of books. Yep. My mom used to call it the magic book bag. But this is like, early 80s. We didn't have phones and stuff. So she would go to Goodwill and just buy all these books. And anytime we were in the car, in order to keep us from complaining, she'd be like, well, reach in, get a new book. And then you had to read whatever it was. So you read lots of different things. But yeah, I always wanted to write. I've always written since I could write. Always, I was that little kid that would go running up with the legal pad or the spiral notebook to my sisters, my mom, and be like, oh, read what I wrote today. And so, yeah, ever since I was about 5, to be quite honest, and my mom has all the old stuff, which is so
oh my gosh. That is so fun.
But I guess I just, until indie publishing became a thing, I just never thought it was a career path I could do. It seemed like this, like me being an Olympic pole vaulter or something. Like it's not something in the realm of, because you always heard the stories of people. It's impossible. You got to get an agent and you can't do this. And so,
Yeah, it seems like in the last, I don't know how many years, maybe 10 years or something, that the rules have changed dramatically. And even in the very short window of time that I've been in here, the rules continue to change, it feels like.
Yeah, I agree. And it's neat too, the tools and things that are now available to indie authors, whether it be online editing services, you can find good editors and you can make, your custom covers, and your product is still just as good as a traditionally published book. You just have to do it all yourself.
Yeah. Or hire people to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. So what was the first book that you wrote with the idea of it being like a published book?
The first one that I finally said, no, I'm gonna do this, is the first book of my Caribbean series. It's called Becca Jumped Ship.
Love it. Okay.
And I had a girlfriend who I would see sporadically through like children's sporting events. And, because romance novels weren't really something people talked about all the time. And I just always thought, oh, it's like my dirty little secret kind of thing.
Right.
And then 50 Shades came out, and all of a sudden these women on the sidelines were like, grasping their pearls. And can you believe they wrote this? I'm thinking, I've been reading this since I was 13.
Exactly.
My historical pirates.
It's always been out there.
Yeah. And so she made an offhand comment when we were talking about how she wrote. And I was like, what do you mean? I had no idea. And she was just putting it up on Wattpad. She had no intention of ever publishing. She just wanted to share her stories. And I don't know, it was almost like a box being open. Like, I can still do that. Like, it's not too late, So she encouraged me to, she actually came up with the title of the book too. But, so she encouraged me, she's like, just do it. She's like, what is the worst thing that happens? And then as many first books do, it drug on for a couple of years. I'd get back to it. And then, when COVID hit and you're home and work kind of stopped. And so I've got all this time on my hands, and, I think everybody was kind of reevaluating their lives a little bit. Like, what is working for me in my life? What is not? And it occurred to me they always talk about like, what's that one thing on your deathbed you would regret? I heard that on a podcast, and instantly in my head, it's you never published a book. And I'm like, what am I waiting for? So I got serious about it and published it in August of 2020.
Oh,
that was
that's awesome.
Really long way of explaining that to you.
Well, I love that though. So your first book came out in the midst of the pandemic then, near the beginning of it, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And did you go into that book knowing it was going to be a trilogy?
No. I genuinely thought, even like when I got to like final edits and, me and my editor are going back and forth about, well, you can't say this. And I'm in my head, I'm thinking, who's going to read it? My mom's going to read it. My family might read it. No one's ever going to read this story. And now
so it doesn't really matter.
Right. And it just never, I once I started writing and was kind of taking it seriously, I realized, oh, no, this, it is the thing that kind of lights my soul on fire. It is, it's who I am. Like in my core, that is who I am. I like to tell stories. It's just what I do. So I always knew I wanted to write more. I actually have this whole other kind of cozy mystery series in my head that I thought would be next. But then I started learning more about the publishing industry, and to my shock, like genuine shock, strangers were reading my book, and they would email me or message me on Instagram and say, well, when's the next one? And I was like, oh, you want more? Okay. Like, I can do that. Okay. So I'm like, all righty then. And so, I feel bad because the trilogy is done, and I still get people like, I can't believe you're not writing more. And I'm like, I gave them a happy ending. Like everybody got their happy ending, but who knows? Maybe someday.
That's funny. That's interesting because it's a trilogy with the same heroine in all three books.
Right. So
it takes the three for her to find to find her happily ever after.
Yes. She has kind of a happily ever after, like
happy for now
at the end of the first book. And then I decided, oh, no, I want to torture people. So I messed her life up really bad in the second book. And in the third book, we worked to get it back together. But it really, I tend to write, and probably every author says this, I tend to write complicated characters, not that they're super dramatic or they don't have like major trauma or anything, but I try to make them like real people. Everyone's got their things they need to work through. And I felt like, particularly in the first book, Becca, she's the main character, she had growth, because that's another thing is my characters have to have a growth arc. They just do. But I felt like for her to get all the way to where she needed to be, I would be like slamming stuff in, and I felt like it was going to take away from the plot. So it took her a good 3 books to
get where she needed to be, learn her lessons.
And that's where I'm kind of like, well, there could be more, because she still has some stuff she needs to learn. She's kind of a know-it-all. She's a little bit like Nancy Drew in the sense that she just doesn't mind her own business. So she gets herself in trouble.
Yeah.
And then, so
that's fun. I like that. I like that your books, on your website, it says books to escape the real world with strong heroines and swoony heroes. And the escape piece is one of the things that I resonate with.
Yes.
I mean, I like strong heroines and swoon-worthy heroes, of course, but so in Becca's journey, I know the first book, she winds up in the Keys.
Yeah.
And then she goes to the Bahamas, right? In the
second
2 book.
Right.
Okay, in the second book. So tell me your experience with that area.
I had 0. I had never been there.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. When I was in college, my other passion in life is history. Did I make a career of that either? Of course not. Apparently people don't want to pay us to, unless you have a PhD.
Right.
So I had an internship at the Atlanta History Center, and it was a research internship, and it was the greatest job I've ever had. They let me go into these rooms, and I had to wear the little gloves because they needed research. So I would like read the books, take notes. This is what they need for the exhibit or whatever. but it was the best job ever. So I love research.
That's fun.
There's not a rabbit hole I've ever found that I didn't go down. So I just researched the heck out of the Keys. And Google Earth, Street View is a big friend of mine.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of people's travel vlogs on YouTube because I can't stand it when I read a book and it's somewhere I've been before and it's so wrong. You can take poetic license, that's fine. Everyone does it. But when it's so bad, it takes me away. And a lot of people have been to the Keys. So yeah, it was research.
In my book, Finding Dolly, it's set in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the whole book finished. And then I was like, we should probably go visit Nashville. And so
I can't believe that, because again, your book, it was truly, you could escape into it because you had everything from the flowers she was seeing and like when they go to,
but
Dolly,
it wasn't like that when before I visited.
So that was all added in after?
It was added in after. And I had like the whole waterfront area. In my head, it was completely different than the reality.
Yeah.
And it was a really good thing that we visited because I had it so wrong.
Well, you did a great job of layering it back in.
But it impresses me when people haven't been able to visit, but still do a really good job of making you feel like you're there, number one, and having it be authentic. So well done.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was, luckily Key West is a very heavily photographed and videoed location. Yeah. And also because I do live in Central Florida, all of my friends have been to Key West. So I'd be like, well, or they've gone on tons of cruises. So I'd say, well, so if you were doing this, what would the security guard say to you? Because I'd only ever been on 1 2-day cruise. And so, and not that they spend very much time on the cruise ship. I mean, they're pretty much done after the first chapter, but I didn't want it to be so unrealistic.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Big fan of research.
It's a good thing. Yeah. I, admire authors who write historicals in whatever time frame, because there's just like a whole nother level of research that has to happen.
Right, between the clothes, the language, the slang, the manners, what their houses would look like, the food. Yeah, I'm so impressed.
Yeah, same. My prequel book, The Finding Dolly, is set in 1989. And I had so much fun looking up things from 1989. It was totally my jam.
I love that. I love that.
I'm like, I remember that concert.
Yep.
Good times. So the Bahamas in the second book, is it the same? Have you been there?
I got off the boat, the cruise ship, my 2-day cruise, went to the straw market, did a Jeep tour, and got back on. So again, it was a lot of Instagram, a lot of just research. Now I absolutely desperately want to go because you see these just gorgeous pink sand and beautiful water, and you know, everyone around here is like, oh, you just go. I'm like, what do you mean you just go? I mean, I wish I could just go, but
that's not my life either. I would love to just go.
And my husband's not a beach person, so we're not ever taking a beach vacation.
Well, it's funny. My daughter's actually going to the Bahamas this month, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in a couple of weeks. So that's funny. Yeah, she goes.
Yeah, my son's taking off for Hawaii.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
I was like, how lovely. I've never been there either. Please don't ask me for spending money anymore.
Exactly. Living vicariously.
Yeah, really.
That's awesome. So let's go ahead and jump to your next book. It's called See You Soon. That one just came out.
Yes.
And it is another suspense.
Yes. This one is much more, and when I say suspense, they're not thrillers, they're not scary.
Right.
But the Becca, the Caribbean series, is probably more of a romantic mystery. I kind of liken it to like a Nancy Drew for adults, but it's It's closed door romance. And the mystery in her growth, and the people are kind of more the focus. This new series, Dangerous Blooms, is more traditional romance. So the couple is the main focus.
Okay.
My main character, these aren't spoilers, she has a stalker.
Okay.
And kind of her whole world has fallen apart. We've got her, she's the daughter of a billionaire. He has died, and it was deemed natural causes, but there were all these other things that were happening in his life that made his children think this new stepmother maybe killed him. We've got that kind of mystery, and that will continue for all 4 of the books in the series. But then each of the books in the series has its own mystery. And Kara's, that's the main character, her problem is she has this stalker who, pops up again and has to.
Okay. And so these are romance also, or
yes, these are definite romance, and these are steamy romance.
Okay, and are they is it the same character in each book, or is there a new romance in each book?
So there are 4 Bloom siblings. There's Declan is the eldest, there's James and Luke are twins, and then Kara is the youngest.
Okay.
And they've got this very kind of complicated family dynamic where their father was this kind of known international womanizer. So none of them share the same mother. And he never married any of their mothers, except for obviously the twins. But because there were these accomplished women he was with, they very much wanted the offspring to still be a family. So they would spend holidays together whenever they could. And then once they were 7, they spent the summers at their father's estate in Rhode Island. So they're still very much a cohesive sibling group, even though they don't share.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So they're very, very loyal. So each of the books follows one of the siblings. So the first one is Kara. The second book, which will be out August 15th, is Luke. And then James, and then Declan will come last.
Okay. How fun. And so now where do these books take place?
Primarily Atlanta. And in the first book, they are trips to Tuscany where some stuff goes down. And then they have to go to Dublin where some more stuff goes down. In the second book, it's Atlanta and the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Ooh, okay.
And then the third book, based in Atlanta, but traveling out to Athens and some small towns around Georgia. And then the fourth book will be, I think, Ireland and Atlanta.
Okay.
with a little New York.
Nice. That sounds like fun. So are you a big traveler?
Yeah, before COVID, we traveled all the time. And my husband, the other job I have, he traveled probably 3 weeks out of the month and had for 20 years. So when I started working for our company as well, I would just go along. So I'm like, so I would sightsee and do like a little work on the side. But yeah, we were very big travelers.
That's awesome. And where's the favorite place that you've been to?
Ooh, it's tough. It's tough because we argue all the time because we're like, we have our 25th anniversary is coming up in August. And so we're arguing about where to go.
Ooh.
So it's going to be a multi-city tie between Paris, London, Southern Ireland. Those will probably be my favorite places to go.
Okay.
But I would like to go back to Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many places I want to go.
I know. I'm with you on that one. There's
I like to be castles.
Places I want to go back to that I've been to.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's that whole world of new places that I want to visit.
Yes. There's places in Asia I'd like to see. I'd love to see South Africa at one point.
Nice. I
would love to go to Turkey just because the history. I just think that'd be so great. But whatever.
Time and money. Money.
Maybe I'll just base a book there and I'll call it a research trip.
There you go. So I'm trying to figure that one out for Italy for next year. I don't think I can convince my husband or the bank account that that's necessary, but I'm really trying.
But it could. You know what we really enjoyed, and this sounds so sad in a way, because when my husband and I travel, when we're on our own, we just kind of do our own thing. I kind of come to the itinerary and we just do our thing. And the rule is always, because again, I'm a history freak, it's either castle pub, museum pub, or church pub, castle pub. He gets a pub stop. But when we travel with our kids, we were doing a lot of tours. So we did the river cruises.
Oh,
Through Tauk is the one we kind of liked. And it was great. I mean,
I would love to do one of those.
yeah, we kind of bucked the authority that they're like, oh, no, we're all doing this today. And we're like, no,
I
we're
don't think
going to
so.
walk off this way. I mean, they don't really care, but it was
Right.
great because you didn't have to worry about, it's not like a bus tour. So you didn't have to change rooms. You can just leave your stuff.
Right.
And they, these cute little towns and stuff. And you just get off, go do your thing for the day, get back on.
That
I
would
love
be
it.
fun. Yeah.
And that was great with the kids too, because then I could, put them in their room and get some sleep.
Close the door. Yeah, that's an important piece. That's an important piece. So, what are you working on right now?
So I am finishing up the final revisions for the second book in the series,
Nice.
with Luke and Dahlia's story.
So, is Dahlia a flower name on purpose?
Yes. So,
Okay.
so all the females except for Kara, because she has the last name Bloom,
Okay.
all the women in the books will have a flower name.
Okay. I like
So
that.
yeah. So it's Dahlia, then Cami, which is short for Camellia, and then except for in Declan's book, she does not have a flower name. I kind of goofed on that one, but
Okay.
whatever.
Okay.
They're my people. I can do what I want.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm doing revisions on that. I've been sending it out piecemeal to the editor since I am behind schedule.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's good. So, and Dahlia, there's always, I leave like breadcrumbs in each of the book for who you're going to meet in the next book.
Right.
And and obviously they're family. So we've revisited.
You've met the family people at least.
Yeah, because I am overly attached to my characters and I can't bear the thought of leaving them. Like when I finished the Becca books, I was thinking, okay, I don't want to write about her anymore, but I've just like left them all out in the world.
You have to know what's going on. Yeah.
What's happening?
That's so funny. I mean, as a reader, I love series for that reason because you get to, you get to know a couple and then you get to see them again in other stories. And I
Yes,
think
exactly.
that's awesome.
And to see how maybe their love grew or matured,
Yeah.
moved on.
Maybe they have babies or, who knows, depending on how long your story goes. But yeah, I've found as an author that it's so much fun to have all this interconnectedness between books. And it's I was trying to draw a family tree and it was so convoluted.
Really?
Well, not because of any weird reasons, I guess. Because that could sound, yeah. But there's a brother and sister, but it's mostly about like three friends. And so okay, those two are kind of siblings, and then her fiance is, sister, brother to this one.
Right. Yes.
And then these ones are friends. And so there's all these like offshooting arcs of who goes where and all the connectedness. So it was kind of a spider webby thing.
But it's so nice, I think, as an author, because we create entire worlds. They're, even if it's based in the real world, it's an entire universe.
Yeah.
And so, you get so attached to it, it's very hard to let go.
Well, especially I would assume if you have so many books in the series and these people. I remember reading Debbie Macomber and her series out, I think it's Blossom Street, maybe. It's out in Washington State somewhere. And there are just a bazillion in her series, like 20 or something. And so you get to know like the whole town.
Right.
And, it's always fun when you see someone from a past book and it's like, oh, what are they doing?
I'm trying to think, I can't remember. It was a historical author, and I'm probably going to be saying the wrong one, but I think it was Catherine Coulter. She had very, there was not all the series, but she had one that started out in the family and it was in the medieval times.
Okay.
So Knights and Castles, which was right up 14-year-old me's alley. You'd see this family, but then I realized years later, I'm reading a separate series of hers, but the way she tied them all together was because of certain physical characteristics that would have been genetic. And then
Oh,
it also this artifact that kept showing up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's talking to
wait
these
a
people.
minute.
Yes, and then there was a third series. It was also totally different, like in Australia, but it was all connected to the family, and it was just, I don't know, I thought that was
Oh,
so
fun.
clever to
Yeah,
to
that's
have done
super
that.
clever.
That is definitely planning, but
Well, yeah, and
I'm not really a
as a
planner.
reader, you love that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And as an author, maybe it makes it easier. I have no idea. But it's probably fun to be able to pull those little nuggets in and characters in when you want them. And
yeah, that's really cool. I love
yeah,
that.
that's fun.
It's really fun.
The power of being an author and being able to make things
It's
happen. And
it is amazing. It is the best job in the world.
agreed, agreed. So the second book, Balia's story,
Yes.
when is that one due out?
It'll be out April 15th. That's April 15th. August
August.
15th.
August 15th. So just over a month away. That's really cool. And when did See You Soon come out?
It came out June 7th.
Nice, nice. And then a date yet for the third one or not yet?
No, I was overly ambitious and
I understand that.
put the pre-order in the at the back of the See You Soon for the second book's called See You There.
Okay.
Didn't overestimated what I was gonna be able to do because my
Mhm.
books, each of them, and I thought this book would be shorter because the first one came in at 448 pages. This next one is going to be equally as long. I didn't think it would be.
Holy
And
moly.
yeah, so they're 122,000 words. So I was
Wow.
thinking,
Got a lot of words.
yeah. So I'm looking at, I think, beginning of October for See You Again, which is James and Cammie's story. And
Okay.
then maybe January for Declan's, and that's See You Maybe.
Okay.
Let's got the names this time.
I like it. Yeah, it's
When I was
fun
trying
when
to name
you
the Becca
have that.
books, yeah, the Becca
Yeah.
books killed me because I locked myself in with Becca jumps ship, and then I had Becca dives in, and that worked. And then it was, oh, I got to come up with a third one. So
Becca, yeah.
verb something, but it's got a tie. But I'm also one of those people. It doesn't have to be an in the face tie to the story, but the title has got to, in some way, be emblematic of the theme of the book.
Right.
So I was like,
Yeah. That's funny. Well, I like your titles, so you do a good job with that. So it's kind of fun. Good stuff. So what are you reading right now?
well, mostly my own stuff because I'm behind schedule. But what is
Editing.
keeping me up at night is I discovered Elsie Silver on TikTok. Everybody kept talking about it, and I wasn't sure I was going to love it because I don't typically love small town Western romance. It's just not my jam.
Yeah.
Um, loved it. Love them.
Awesome.
Even the one that Reckless. It's even got the surprise pregnancy trope, which I usually typically hate. Oh my gosh, they did such a good job with it.
That's awesome.
It was a very good book. Um, and then I also just finished the Twisted Love series, the Anna Wong, which some of them I liked, some I not as much. The fourth book was pretty good though.
Okay.
Do you ever get that where like when you read so much in your Kindle, like I can tell you about the story, might
Yeah.
not tell you what the title is or who wrote it, but
I totally am that way. I made the mistake the other day of hitting the wrong button on my Kindle and it archived all my books.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
don't do that.
That is
And
very
so I can't even remember like half the books to pull back in. So it's like, huh. So
I
don't do that.
I picked up on that Stuff Your Kindle day. I picked up about 5 books.
Nice.
Some of them are pretty cute. I'm for some reason I was being very sporadic in my reading, and I'd read like 3 chapters or one, start the other book, which is not like me.
Huh.
And then and so you don't talk about escape between the pages. Whenever I get stressed, which I'm a little stressed, I go back to my comfort reads. And so honestly, that is, I mean, I've read the book, I could quote the book, but it's Honor Splendor by Julie Garwood. Oh my gosh, just good old medieval. But I love it. I love it so much.
How many times have you read it?
Oh, 100.
Yeah.
100.
That's
I
Harry
literally
Potter is that for me. I love
yes.
Harry Potter. So
Yes. sometimes it's just, you have your comfort reads and they make you feel good.
Yeah, I had to do that during COVID when 2020 was a whole bunch of comfort reads.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
That is
was
another thing too. It's funny how like 2020, how many people, and now, and they, a lot of people give the credit to Book Talk because people were suddenly talking about books, but it's amazing how so many people rediscovered reading. And I think what
yeah,
happens is once you're not a kid anymore, you think, oh, I don't have free time to do this. And oh, I should be doing this. And oh, my
right.
husband watched this movie at night, so I'm not going to read. And it's just such a shame because there's so many amazing books out there
There
that
are
open up
so
the
many
whole
amazing
world.
books. Yeah. I
And
I feel like if you don't like reading, you just haven't found the right book. And it's out there.
yes,
It's
yeah.
out there.
And I always
Yeah.
tell people, because people can sometimes be a little judgy about different formats. You got to read graphic novels. There are
Yeah.
beautiful graphic novels. Audiobooks is still reading. I have
Mhm.
a friend in Mexico that I made, sounds so bizarre. We became friends over Instagram.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
he's a young guy and he just released his second book and he writes the most beautiful stories, but he writes them in prose, like poetry.
Oh,
And I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm gonna like that because I truly,
yeah.
but you still are completely enmeshed in the world he has created.
Wow.
Yeah.
How
So
interesting. I love that.
so there's just so many different mediums and ways to read and to get a
And they are
story.
all valid and
Absolutely. People
fine.
should not
Yeah.
shame people for what they read. That is my
Oh, for sure. For sure. And that's, I mean, I remember romance. It's always been kind of the black sheep of the book
oh, yeah.
family, and it's the number one seller. I
I
mean,
know. And the thing is,
it's
people always act like, or maybe it was just me, but I would have people say to me when I was a teenager reading it, and they'd see it because they had, the true late 80s, 90s, bodice ripper covers. You're so much smarter than that, Kate. You should read this over here. Well, I did read that over here, but that doesn't mean I don't also love this. Like this makes me,
right,
why do you care what I'm reading? And like
right.
you said, the historicals, I fully give credit to Jude Devereaux, Julie Garwood, and Catherine Coulter for why I aced my AP World History test. And I knew because in my head, you're reading the history, but it's a story and it's with
Well, and you
people.
can picture it.
Yes, and you cared about your little characters and they all their research. Oh my gosh. Because
Yeah, on point.
I even minored in history in college, thinking, well, maybe I'll find out some of that stuff isn't true. Oh no, they nailed it. They
Yeah,
absolutely nailed it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
That's so
people are
funny. I
mean
love
about
that.
romance. Yeah.
Love that.
Very defensive about romance. I'm like, romance is wonderful.
Well, and I remember one year and it might have been like 2019, 2020, somewhere in there. I read like 80 books that year.
Oh wow.
And a guy I was talking to, he was like, "Oh, I bet most of them are romance." And I'm like, "Well, so
What's your
what if
point?
they are?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
What is your point? I still read
yeah,
them.
what? And that comment has always stuck with me as,
Yeah.
yeah, number one being rude, but number two, very uninformed. So,
Right. And frankly, most, I mean, I'm not going to say all books are not created equal,
no,
obviously,
no,
but, really good romance books. I mean, you have fully developed characters. They have their growth arcs. You might have a mystery. You might have an adventure. You might learn about history. You
yeah,
might learn about a new city, something new about music, like all the awesome Dolly Parton quotes you had in your book.
yeah,
You learned things. It's not
yeah.
just she sees boy kisses her, and no, they're novels.
Right, right. And I mean, there's crappy novels in every genre. So,
Absolutely.
and some of them are on the bestseller list. So,
Yes.
but that's a whole
Getting
nother
back
podcast
to
episode.
50 Shades. I'm so mean. Not that I would not love to have her bank account, but
Amen. So, Kate, where do you like people to hang out with you online?
um, I am primarily I'm on all the platforms, and my username for all of them is Kate Breitfeller author. And I'm very, very active on TikTok. And now I have a new one today, the
Thread?
thread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Suddenly
haven't even
everyone's
gone
on
on
there.
there. I'm afraid to.
The only one I don't really use Twitter.
Okay.
Mainly because it cages me with how many characters I'm allowed. And
That's how Thread is. So you might not like it.
oh, I don't know. I wrote this whole long dissertation. It's almost like an
Oh,
Instagram caption. Like I didn't
oh,
get released. Maybe they're
I'm
giving
curious.
us, leeway in the beginning to get us hooked. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Suck
So
in.
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Thread. I am everywhere.
Sounds good. Well, we will link to all of that in the show notes,
Wow.
and all the books that we've talked about on here, we'll link those.
They're all on
And
Kindle Unlimited. So
awesome. That's always fun. Good stuff.
I'm a Kindle Unlimited addict, so I feel like I want to give back to my fellow Kindle Unlimited addicts.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Kindle Unlimited.
Mhm.
It's a good way to read as much as you want. So there's
Yeah,
some
and it
really good books on there, which I love. So
Yeah, and it lets you try authors you may never have been like, well, I don't want to spend $14.99 on this. I've never read anything by this author.
right.
There's oh shoot, I can't think of the name. Krista Swanson. I want to read her book so bad, and it sounds so terrible, but she's on Kindle Unlimited. It's her first book, and it sounds good, but I don't want to spend $16 because I read so much.
Right. I understand that.
Her story does sound really good, so I may give that.
Hopefully it's as good as it sounds.
Yeah, so.
Okay, thank you for joining me today. This was so much fun talking to you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I will link everything like I said in the show notes, and
Okay.
I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for joining me today on the Literary Escape podcast. If you enjoy hearing the behind the book story, then join me in the Literary Escape Society. We're a community of travelers who love books, or maybe book lovers who love to travel. Either way, if you need an escape, a literary escape, come join us as we read our way around the world together, one book at a time. Check out the show notes to learn more about the Literary Escape Society. And we'll see you next time on the next episode.